So, hello and welcome along to another edition here of Isolation Interviews for Hospital Radio and my YouTube channel. And I'm super excited to be joined by the legendary Andi Peters. Thank you so much for joining me.
You're more than welcome. Pleasure to be here.
Now, I was just thinking about this the other day. I think the last time we spoke was probably about 3 or 4 years ago when you joined me for our Take 5 program where we got you to pick a few tracks. Obviously, life has changed completely since then. How have you found the last year and a half? How have things been for you?
Do you know what? I think look, I'm lucky. I still have all my family and all my friends. A lot of people don't have that. I've managed to work throughout. A lot of people haven't had that. So I count myself as really blessed and really, really lucky. I have gone along with what the guidelines have always said. Don't necessarily always think they've been right, but I've gone along with them all to make sure that we do our best to keep safe. And I think it's been a trying time. I think there'll be lessons learned for everybody in the workplace, in valuing your family, in valuing our liberties. You know, who would have thought you would have to queue to get into a supermarket? What? Yeah, and wait your turn. Okay. So I think there will be learnings for us all. For whatever reason, this pandemic hit us. If it makes us all slow down and appreciate life a bit more, then at least something good will come out of it.
Obviously, you've been used to, traveling the world, doing the competitions for Good Morning Britain. Have you found it quite enjoyable being able to just enjoy the British, great British countryside and getting out and seeing this country a bit more?
Do you know, it's really interesting. I've seen more of the UK in the past 3 months than I've seen in the past 50 years. And I'm not even joking. I've seen so much of the UK, and so much of it is stunningly beautiful, under-resourced, but at the same time, engaging and visit worthy of everybody. And I think, yes, there's a lot of people now running off to Greece and Spain, just trying to get away. Do you know, if you look closer to home, there are some really amazing places to be seen.
I've sort of over the course of the last year managed to get to the Cotswolds. I'm planning to go up to Yorkshire later in the year. There is so much in this country, in Great Britain, that is just worth seeing, that I think a lot of people forget about the amazing beauty we have in this country.
I think you're right. And I think the other thing is as well, it's cheap to go to Spain. You can get to the airport, get on, and that's cheap. If you want to go and do a touring week in Scotland, that could end up being quite expensive. And you won't get hotels that are as nice as the ones you might stay in Spain. So I think it has to be a considered choice. I think Cornwall, Devon, as you say, Cotswolds, at the moment are probably literally fighting people away. And maybe next year, when it calms down a bit and maybe a lot more people will go abroad, the Cornwall, that'll be the time to go to Cornwall, either December this year or next time, or this time next year.
The other thing for yourself as well is you had, in the sort of early stages of lockdown, you were doing a lot of presenting from your garage. So
yeah.
Was that a strange experience to work from home? I know a lot of people around the country are having to get used to it, but how did you find that?
Do you know what? I really loved it. When we do the studio, we have to get to the studio at 5 o'clock in the morning. There's meetings, there's, go to makeup, get your clothes on. Like that. When you literally wake up 2 floors above the studio and wander downstairs, make a cup of coffee so it comes out exactly how you want it. It was brilliant, and I would carry on doing it. ITV decided that we should only use it when the country is in lockdown, so it looks the same. So we haven't dismantled it. Skeptics out there say there's still another lockdown to come. So we haven't dismantled it. It's all still downstairs in my garage, and at a moment's notice, I could go and broadcast live from there.
Did it take you long to put that together? And did you because I imagine, sort of trying to suddenly be, setting up a studio at home, was that easy for you? Was it quite a quick process?
Do you know what? It was a really quick process because I did it all. It happened organically. We were trying to broadcast on my iPhone from my garden. The signal was appalling. The technical team said, "Where's your router?" I didn't even know what a router was. And I said, "I have no idea what you're talking about." Anyway, the thing they were talking about was in my garage. So I went to the garage. We had the best signal. So I said, well, I'll just do it in here. And it's funny, we'll just say I'm actually in my garage, and we did. And for people of a certain age, they'll remember the broom cupboard. It very quickly became the same thing, a very small space. Eventually, they put a proper camera in with a cameraman who was in my work bubble. And even then, we would always be 2 meters apart from each other. It's quite funny because he never saw any part of my house apart from the garage for about 4 months, because he could only go into the garage because that's what the guidelines said. And so, and I just treated it like the broom cupboard. And I think my broom cupboard experience meant that I could just get on with it, make props, build props, buy props, hang props. I mean, between myself and the cameraman, we did everything: lighting, sound, camera, design, props, stagehands. We did everything between us.
And I mean, obviously, lockdown has been tough for a lot of people. People have been finding new ways of communicating with others and finding new skills. So, I mean, did you find you got much time to kind of do things like reconnecting with friends or learning new skills? Did you get to do any of that sort of thing?
Do you know what? I bought a package to learn how to speak Spanish. I did like the first 2 lessons. What I discovered is I love walking. So it's interesting because I remember starting in March and it was cold. Because I remember I used to have to wrap up warm to go for a walk. We've gone through the whole thing of going for a walk, not wrapped up warm, and then going for a walk, wrapped up warm again, and then going for a walk, not wrapped up warm. So, it's gone full circle twice. And I loved it. And I loved walking, and I kept walking, and I enjoyed walking, and kept doing that. That's probably my biggest discovery. And also, I've been a huge FaceTimer already. I was always FaceTiming people. So everyone's like, oh, Zoom, as if it's some new thing, be able to video call someone. No, I've always been a FaceTimer because I've always been comfortable on camera. Most people are like, oh, I don't like doing it. I don't like seeing myself on telly. Whereas I'm like, I've been doing it for a long time. I'm used to it. I'll just FaceTime you. So that's been interesting, watching this product called Zoom, and the fact that it's already gone into, it's a verb already to, I'll do a Zoom. That company must be over the moon.
And I mean, of course, during the height of the kind of the first lockdown, a lot of people were obviously checking in on neighbours and looking after people who were, stuck, the vulnerable, the elderly. I mean, did you find that you were able to connect with people, meet neighbours that maybe you had never really had much to do with in the past?
Oh, completely. Completely. There are neighbours I now know from clapping for carers, neighbours that I'd never seen before that I thought, oh, actually, I'll go and clap for carers. Oh, met them and really enjoyed their company. And neighbours that, you kind of have nodded at, who you'd suddenly say, how are you? Is there anything, that I can do for you? Do you need anything? And I think it was a real sort of, way to meet other people and meet people that as you say, neighbours that I've nodded at, but couldn't tell you their names. And now we've got a much better community in the area because we did all meet from constantly being outside clapping. And I think that sort of very British spirit of we were all in it together, so we all had to face it together. And at that point, we just all got on with it, and that was it. And so therefore, it was something to unite us all. I think it felt a bit like Christmas. I don't know if you agree. At Christmas, I think everybody in the UK is a little bit nicer. And definitely. Through all of this, we were all a little bit nicer to each other. And I hope that can stay.
I mean, I completely agree. I can understand about the Christmas thing. It felt like people were more willing to either, call up a neighbour who you don't talk to normally, just to say, are you okay? Mental health has been such a big thing. I would say people have been talking more about mental health, which is so important. I mean, there's so many things that I think hopefully going forward we will take with us and improve. But I mean, it's been a tough thing to go through, but there have been positives.
Yeah, exactly that. I think I couldn't agree more. I think it's been a really tough thing to go through, but I think there have been positives, and we need to make sure that there are and continue to be positives, that we all learn from it and take something away. And as I said, out of respect for all of those people that have lost their lives, there by the grace of God that you and I are fine, and hopefully our families are fine. But out of respect for all those people, I think we should have a new way of working, a new way of understanding. I don't think I don't think we'll ever go back to being people working 55 people in an office working 40 hours a week. It's just not conducive to a good life. And I know many people who have friends, who have children, and are very much saying now, do you know what? I quite enjoy being home to feed my children at night, rather than have a nanny, or, I quite enjoy seeing my children at night. So actually now I'm always going to leave work at 4:30 to make sure I'm back in time to see my children.
And the other thing we must mention, of course, the NHS. I mean, I think, for some people, maybe they, went through a stage of sort of maybe taking them for granted. I don't know. But would you say that they're kind of back in the forefront of everyone's minds? I mean, I think it's fair to say we all really, are so grateful to have the NHS and just what an amazing job they do.
Do you know what? I think the NHS is one of those silent heroes. I don't think people were taking it for granted. I just don't think people realise you only need the NHS when you need the NHS. I think what this has done is it's really put them in the forefront of all of our minds. I did a TV programme many years ago on BBC One called City Hospital, and it was based in Guy's and St Thomas's, and I was there every day for 8 weeks on, 8 weeks off of the year, doing a live TV show and watching what NHS doctors and nurses did. And every day I was like, this is amazing what these people do. And, not to be political, but when you offer, after the year they've had, you go, well, actually, we'll only give you a 1% pay rise. Oh, okay. That's kind of rubbish. But, they're special people. Everybody that works in the NHS, and we keep saying NHS or care homes, they're a special breed of people. Looking after other people, you need to be a special person, and they are all, every individual, special.
And so hopefully something will come of this, and hopefully going forward, obviously, without, like you say, without getting too political, hopefully it will get better for them, and hopefully people will continue to be grateful and continue to do everything we have to help them, really.
I think at least everybody will be much more supportive of the NHS, when they go into a hospital, whereas before they'd probably just go, thank you. I think now people will be like, no, genuinely, thank you so much. Without you, it makes me angry. So I have to be careful because I can get very angry about it. But, absolutely 100%, it will be much more. I think we will all appreciate them a little bit more.
Now, we must talk obviously a bit about your career, because you've had such an amazing career, over the years. For you, is there a highlight, something that for you stands out as an absolute, that job was one of my favourites, or something I'm super proud of?
It's so difficult because I have done so many jobs. I started as a presenter. So people always say, what do you prefer, presenting or producing? Ultimately, I prefer presenting. Not that it's easier. I just think it's a different dynamic. And you don't have as much pressure. You have pressure in the moment, but off screen, when you're producing a show, I'm thinking about that show every minute of the day, night, weekends, and I could be executing 3 shows at once. So I think being a presenter, I love the fact I created T4. It's something that no one will ever be able to take away from me. I created that show, and I made Top of the Pops have some of the best moments in music performances on television. Eminem playing on HMS Belfast, Lost Prophets playing on the roof of a BBC building with a helicopter taking shots. So we create, Blazing Squad with 100 dancers. So we created some great landmark moments, and our U2 playing in the car park. And you can't, again, they're moments that were slightly ahead of their time, slightly off the wall. And in the heyday of television has changed a lot since I was, really in production. And now, there are 500 channels in this country that you can watch technically. So, back when I started, there were 4. In fact, there were 3. I remember when Channel 4 started. So there were 3 channels you could watch when I started. So it's a very different, excuse me, it's a very different landscape now. But yeah, creating T4 and running Top of the Pops for a couple of years, 3 years, I'm really proud of those.
I mean, I imagine that when you're, able to do the presenting and do the producing, would you say that kind of like presenting can help, the job of producing, and sort of having the inside in both can work well?
You ask anyone who's a presenter, they'll tell you how much they like me being a producer, because of course I can see it exactly from their POV. I can everything they do. I can do it 1 second before them because I've been there. So it makes it very easy for me to produce and say, no, this is what they'll need. This is how they'll need it, because I've been there. And at the same time, I suppose some people think it makes me harder to produce because I know what I'm doing, so I'm like, that's why I can do it, don't worry. And some people are like, no, I want to produce it. It's like, well, I'm a more experienced producer than you as well. So why don't I just kind of just do it my way, and we'll hope it all comes out, how we want it. But yeah, I think certainly being a producer means, being a presenter who has produced makes it better as a presenter, and being a producer who has presented makes me better as a producer.
And I mean, you've been responsible for kind of launching the careers of some great TV presenters who are still presenting to this day. I mean, is it quite a nice feeling when you can help someone up the ladder and help someone with their career in the progression?
Oh, that's one of my favorite things. Having discovered the talent base that I've discovered and put on television, many of whom have presented bigger shows than I've ever presented. That's quite a rewarding feeling. I've always loved being somebody that can help people. And again, what you see on screen, whether it's Dermot, Ben Shepherd, Margarita Taylor, June Sarpong, Vernon Kay, Lee Francis, Fern Cotton, any of these people that I discovered, there's as many people behind the scenes. The controller of the managing director of ITV Entertainment, I gave her a job in television. The exec producer of Masked Dancer and Masked Singer, I gave her a job in television. The head of ITV Entertainment, I gave her a job in television. So there's as many people behind the scenes. That one of the BBC One commissioners, I gave him his first job in television. There's as many people behind the scenes as there are on screen.
And I imagine as well, when you're working with these people and you're seeing them progress, and then it must be nice as well to see them, like you say, reaching these great goals, milestones. You say there's that pride there as well, but you also must be sort of thinking, fantastic that they've been able to reach their potential, and sort of, I suppose there's a bit of a sort of like a teacher in it as well, like the kind of the sort of the teacher who helps to grow.
Oh, be under no illusion. I pat myself on the back and go, I know how to spot me. I spot talent a mile off. And no. Oh, I'm very clear. I'm very clear about it. And, Ben Shepherd, Dermot are both very good at saying, oh no, without Andy, I wouldn't be here. And then the coaching I gave them through their early days, saying, no, do it like that. Don't do it like that. Do this like this. Oh no, they're very, very good at saying, well done me. And I thank them for that.
And also, I imagine as well with the whole live TV versus pre-records. I imagine for yourself, you're a lover of live TV. I think that's a lot of presenters say that's when they thrive, when they can truly kind of show off their skills. Because if something goes wrong, it's like, how do you deal with it? What do we do next?
Yeah, I mean, again, that's the skill. That's the skill. Being a live TV presenter is a skill, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. It is absolutely where, presenters get paid a lot of money. Presenters are at their best when things go wrong. I did a podcast with Lorraine Kelly recently. She said, the thing is, Andy, you just make it look so effortless, like you're not even thinking about it. Now, I have, yes, most definitely I am thinking about it. But it's what I do, and it's what I've done for 32 years. So it's all I can do. That's the other thing. It's all I can do. So, to make it look effortless is a skill in itself. But I'd like to think with the experience I've had, that's why I can do it.
And I imagine as well that the mixing in live TV with the general public can also be quite interesting, because obviously they don't really know necessarily what they need to do. So you kind of have to kind of lead them a bit and kind of guide them, because a lot of them maybe have never been on TV before.
Yeah, exactly. And it can be quite daunting. So for me, it's not daunting because it's all I've ever done. But when you've got, especially if you're knocking on someone's front door and giving them money and they're all in a state of shock, and you've got to keep them talking, keep the item going, run to time, you've got to be quite sort of, what's the word I would use? You've got to be like a ringmaster. I'm trying to control all these things going on around me, people talking to me in my ear, and trying to make this whole thing have a crescendo, which is the moment, and then moving on. And that can be quite difficult. But again, that's why I'm there doing what I do.
I mean, I imagine you have to be very careful, though, because there was one time that we saw you were heading up to the person's house, and then you met someone in the street who then tried to make out that they were that person. So I imagine there's a lot of pressure. You can't get it wrong.
Yeah, again, and stuff like that with what I do on Good Morning Britain, etc. It can be quite. It's funny you mentioned that. Her name was Jane. I won't forget. But yes, Jane. It wasn't Jane. It was the wrong Jane, and it wasn't the wrong Jane. I just was like, oh, I wonder if that's the lady that I'm meant to be talking to. But no, and we don't even know her name was Jane anyway. She could have just been saying, yeah, I'm Jane. So yeah, that's just a funny incident. That was just funny.
I mean, obviously, going forward, is there? I mean, I'm sure you get asked this all the time, but is there like a dream, something that you haven't had chance to do yet that you would love to do?
I would love to do This Morning. I would love to do This Morning. That's, and obviously Philip's there. Philip's done it for a long time, and he's very, very good at it. But yeah, that would be the show, because it's the most like live and kicking. So it's a multi-format magazine show. That's the show I would love to do.
And I mean, I know we've talked about it before, but I just wanted to briefly mention about your brief appearance on Toy Story 2, which I know that you were super excited to do that. I mean, how did that come about for you? How did you get the chance to do that?
I did a TV show called Andi Meets. And it was Andi Meets Kylie, Andi Meets Beyonce, Andi Meets Ricky Martin, Andi Meets Britney, Andi Meets insert famous pop star. And then when we were having to make the series a bit wider, one of the producers said, why don't we meet a film? I was like, what are you talking about? How can we meet a film? Well, we'll go behind the scenes of a film being made. And the film they chose was Toy Story 2. And so actually, the woman who was the producer, who is now the managing director of ITV, who worked for me as a producer on that show, got in touch with Pixar and Disney, no, Pixar, because it wasn't Disney back then, and said, look, we want to do this thing, can we? And they all agreed. And then one of her stipulations was, I really need to get him in the film. And they said, well, actually, okay, there's a character we haven't voiced yet, which could have a British accent. It wouldn't be bad if it had a British. And she sent them pictures of me, audio files, all sorts of things like that. And they took all of that in. And then she obviously primed them that when I was interviewing the big producer, that he would say to me, hey, do you want to be in the movie? I was like, I can remember it. I can remember it to this day. Just the wow moment of, I beg your pardon. And it's interesting because nowadays you get movies where they'll go to we call every territory. So just imagine every country. And they'll say, who's the most famous newsreader in that country? We need someone to read the news in this film. And they'll record it in 15 countries. And then every time they release it in each country, they'll edit that bit. So one's got Piers Morgan in, one's got some French reporter in, one's got a Canadian reporter in. Everyone says, oh, are you in all Toy Stories? I'm like, oh, don't you believe it? I am in every version. I've been dubbed into X many languages. And what do you think paid for this house?
It must be so great to do something like that. And I mean, I imagine for you, you've met so many big names over the years. Do you ever get starstruck? Do you ever kind of have that moment where it's like, oh, wow, it's so-and-so, and have that sort of freeze moment?
Yeah, you do, but it kind of works two ways, because of course you're never meeting them by mistake. So you'll see them and go, oh, like this. I was at the gym this morning and I saw Davina McCall. I was like, oh, there's Davina. You still go, oh, there's Davina. And I know Davina really well. So you have those moments where you're like, oh, there's this person. But there's a thing about when you're doing your job, you're doing your job. So I don't need to be excited because I need to do the job to ask the questions. That's my job. And that's why I'm here. So Janet Jackson, I would say, is the only person I've been mildly starstruck by. I would say it would be her.
Now, I just want to say it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. It's probably the perfect time to finish. But before we go, is there any messages you would like to give to people who are currently stuck in hospital at the moment?
Oh, I mean, you use the word stuck in hospital. You're there for a reason. That reason is to get better. You've got wonderful people around you. Everybody who wants you to get better and get unstuck out of hospital. And I would just send everybody, my prayers that, you will heal, recover, get better as soon as possible, and get back into this wild and wacky, crazy world in which we live. And do make sure, as I'm sure everyone will do, the doctors and the nurses, that you show them the gratitude that they deserve, because only we can treat them right, because it does appear that the people that pay them don't want to treat them right. So it's going to be left up to us.
Thank you so much, Andy. It's been an absolute pleasure. Of course, keep safe. And thank you again.
No, you too. You've got really great interview technique. I'm really impressed. Well done.
Thank you.